Oh, what up? It's your boy Raider. We got some more giveaways for you. So, who do we have today? Today, also, if you haven't already, check out my video from yesterday. We had Affidus and a bunch of legendary starters. Today, we have a little bit more advanced accounts, I would say. Not super advanced, kind of like starter accounts. We have this one, Frolni, Venus, Chagar, and Gorgorab. So Frolni obviously being the mythical, the one that you're going for. Type Frolni down in the comments if you want the big Frolni. He's probably, I would say, the worst legendary or worst mythical in the game. But the caveat with being the worst mythical in the game is you're likely to get a buff. And he's already got a buff. I don't know if he's got multiple buffs or just one. But he could be due for another buff. So that is something. You could get this account, hold on to it, and then maybe Big Daddy Frolni gets a buff. What does he do? He has an AoE. Damage of this skill increases by 30% if this champion's max HP is higher than each target's max HP. And then A2 attacks one enemy, steals 2 buffs from a target. This effect cannot be resisted. If the attack is critical, repeats the attack once. And then an A1 attacks one enemy, will ignore 5% of the target's defense for each buff on this champion. He has a 35% in all battles aura. He has this champion's crit damage increased by 1% for every 1000 HP they have, increases the champion's max HP by 20%, stacks up to 100%, and speed by 20, stacks up to 100. Whenever this champion kills an enemy, resets each round. I kind of read that weird, but you can probably work it out. All right, so I'll show you what the accounts have in a minute, but we have 2 more accounts. Well, technically 3. So in the video yesterday, I did Affidus. And so there's going to be 2 chances at Affidus. There's going to be an Affidus starter, and then there's going to be an Affidus, which is kind of similar to this Gharol and the Fjorad account. It just has some other different champions to start with. So what does Big Mama Gharol do? Gharol got a big fat buff and is now amazing. I wonder if her reviews, they're starting to creep up. I bet you they were dog shit not too long ago. What does Gharol do? Removes all debuffs from all allies, places a 50% ally protection on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Also places a shield buff on all allies equal to 30% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. Increase the value of shield by additional 3% of this champion's max HP per each debuff removed by this skill. Takes 2 books. And then she has AoE provoke. This debuff will ignore block debuffs, which is nice, and can be placed even if the attack lands as a weak hit. Also places a protected unkillable and counterattack on this champion for 3 turns. That is actually pretty nasty. A1 attacks one enemy before attacking. Remove all buffs from the target. Increases the cooldown of a random skill on the target by 2 turns, even if the attack lands as a weak hit. Not a bad kit. When attacked, decreases the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Occurs once per hit. Also heals all allies except this champion by 50% of the damage taken, and heals this champion by 25% of the damage taken. Whenever this champion is hit, occurs once per turn. I just noticed we didn't look at Frolni's alternate form, so maybe we can go back and check her out. So this is the ult for Gharol Bloodmaul. She will transform. Yes, we already know that. She has how many skills here? It's weird that it's right there. That's kind of weird. Is this like an active skill or something? Remove all debuffs from this champion. Place a 50% increased attack buff, increased crit damage, and increased crit rate buff on all allies for 3 turns. Grants an extra turn. This skill unlocks when this champion has 3 or more debuffs, or when this champion has 50%. Okay, yeah, so it's like an active skill. So whenever she has 3 or more debuffs on her, she's going to put all this stuff on her and get an extra turn. Her passive, whenever an ally attacks this champion, has a 50% chance to team up with them and join their attack. That's really nice. This champion inflicts more damage as their HP decreases by 1% for every 1% lost. The champion receives 1% less damage as their HP decreases by 0.5 for every 1% lost. She has an AoE. Damage of this skill increases by 10% for each buff on this champion and on the target. Will ignore 30% of the target's defense. Will ignore 50% of the defense instead if this champion has more buffs than the target. 50% ignore defense is nutty. It is on a 3-turn and can be booked up for damage. AoE has 25% chance of repeating the attack. Will ignore block damage. That is a good skill. Block damage is annoying in arena, and it can be annoying in waves if they have block damage. Faction War specifically, I know there's like Rosh card levels and stuff. And a 25% to repeat is nice. All right, we are back on Frolni. I forgot to go over his ultimate. Also, if you want the Gharol, you know what to do. Put Gharol down in the comments. For Mr. Frolni here, his ultimate form places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turn. Place an unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turn. Then a shield buff for 2 turn on all allies with less than 50% HP. The value of the shield is proportional to this champion's defense, similar to like a Valkyrie shield, where her shield is proportional to her defense. What else? Attacks on enemy, heals a champion by 50% of their max HP, balances the HP of all allies. As HP levels of all allies will be brought up to the level of the ally with the highest HP. Attacks on enemy 2 times each hit, increases the defense of this champion's defense by 5%, stacks up to 100. And the passive, when attacked, reflects 80% of the damage of this champion receives back to the attacker. Debuffs placed on this champion decrease the producer's accuracy by 10%, stacks up to 50%. So overall, his review is horrible. Everybody says he's the worst. You go to any video, you go to any tier list, he is probably the worst. But like I said, maybe he gets a buff. And it is a mythical, fun to play with. He can do some damage, but he's just not on par with some of the other mythicals, unfortunately. All right, the last mythical that we are giving away, and this will be on Friday. So all of the giveaways will be streamed on Friday. You don't have to be in the stream to be in the giveaway, but if you want to be there and see if you win or not, look out for it. The way you'll know that you won is either if you're in the stream, you can claim it right away. You just have to take a picture of your YouTube page and confirm that it's you from the comment, and then or I'll just comment back to you on your comment if you're not in the stream. So what does Fjorad do? Attack all enemies. Place a freeze debuff on all allies for 1 turn and a 30% decreased speed on all enemies for 2 turns. If an enemy is from the Galen pack, places a freeze debuff on them for 2 turns instead. And this debuff cannot be blocked or resisted. The Galen pack would be, let's see, Ogren, Lizardman, Skinwalker, Orc. His A2 places block debuffs and an increased speed buff on allies for 2 turns, decreases the cooldown of all ally skills except this champion by 1 turn. That's on a 3-turn. This is on a 4-turn. Attacks enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff for 1 turn. The debuff cannot be blocked or resisted if the target is from the Galen Pact. If the target is not under a freeze debuff, we'll repeat this attack once. All in all, not a bad champion, but not amazing. The ratings would say he is in fact the worst, but I've heard that some people actually like him and he has some uses. The freeze is good, but on a 4-turn is kind of meh, like Luria, a epic, does a freeze on a 4-turn, but this does grant an extra turn. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So 4-turn, grant an extra turn. So basically a 3-turn. But I don't know. I don't know how they make them better, how they could make them better, but there's definitely probably a way to make them better. The ultimate for Fjorad Wolfheart. He looks pretty sick. Looks like a freezer. Attacks one enemy will ignore 50% of the target's defense. If the target is under a freeze debuff, will ignore 100% of the target's defense and block damage buffs instead. So if it's under a freeze, ignore 100% of defense and block damage. If the target is killed while under freeze debuff, also places a block revive and places a freeze debuff on all allies for 1 turn. The freeze debuff cannot be blocked or resisted by enemies from the Galen Pact. So I guess the kit should synergize well, right? Like you place the freeze on everybody, you get an extra turn, so you can metamorph, and then you can come in and do 100% ignore defense on anybody that has a freeze on them. And then his A2 here, attack all enemies, place an extra hit on enemies under freeze, stun, fear, true fear, provoke, or petrification. Each hit decreases each target's max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted. Each hit also decreases each target's turn meter by 25%. This effect cannot be resisted if enemy is under freeze, yada yada, debuffs. Alright, A1. Will ignore 15% of the target's defense. If the target is under freeze debuff, ignores 35 of the target's defense instead. So 15 if it's under freeze, 35. If the attack kills an enemy, resets the cooldown of one of this champion's random skills. Counterattacks with the Rhyme Clave skill. Whenever an enemy increases the cooldown of any of this champion's skills, whenever an ally is killed, has a 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. This chance increases to 100% and cannot be blocked or resisted. So the Rhyme Clave is A1. Okay. So anytime he has his cooldowns reset, so like against like a Fabian or a Crixia, then he will attack with his A1. So these are the champions for the giveaway. We will do the giveaway on Friday night, Friday afternoon-ish, like around 5 CST. Let me show you what the accounts look like. All right, on the top here is the Gharol account. Gharol, Artak, Basim, a lot of level 1 champions. This guy that's giving away the counts, Skies, he is a reroller as well. And then we have the second Aphidus account with some login champions, Ninja, Visix, Artak. And then we have the Fjorad account, very similar, login champions and such. So these are the 3 mythical champions that we are giving away. Like I said in the comments, put Fjorad, Frolni, or Gharol for which ones you want, and we will select the winners on Friday. Hope to see y'all there, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.